Recording has started. Share my screen. So before we begin with the new topics today, do you have any questions on the topics which we have covered in last 2 days?
I don't.
Okay. And if if nobody else has a question on those topic, how about the assignments? Were you able to create the complete the assignments?
Yes, we were.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
So, all right. So we have completed the user portion of this assignment. I believe everybody has access to this presentation through SharePoint. So today we will be looking into group rules. Yesterday we did the group and we saw how we can add users to group. Today we are going to see how we can add the members to the groups dynamically instead of manually adding someone. So that is called group rules, which we are going to start today. So as we saw yesterday, in order to create a group or assign users to a group, we go to directory, groups, and to create a new group, we click on add group and provide name and description, and that helps us create a group. And for an existing groups, we can just click on the group name and we can click on assign people and select the people or search for the user using their name or username and click on this plus icon, which adds the user. So this
Uh,
was a manual assignment.
Sumit,
Sorry.
can I stop you for a second? Are you sharing your screen? Because I currently do not see your screen.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen.
Okay.
I'm
So it's
able
a
to
me
see
problem.
your screen, Sumit. Is there anybody else who's not seeing it?
No, I'm seeing it too.
I'm seeing it
But
as well.
Okay, so it is a me problem. Uh, should I leave and join again?
Sure, you can try that.
Okay.
Okay, give me a minute. Till then, if anybody has any question, you can go for it.
Okay, it is working now. I see your screen. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so if we need to add, let's say 1 or 2 members, it's okay. We can go ahead and assign them manually. But let's say if we need to maintain this group on a real time, we need to get the IT admins added to this group as they are created in Okta or as they are promoted in Okta. Uh, that would be a very difficult thing to track for an Okta administrator because we don't know when the other users are getting promoted. Yeah, if we are receiving a ticket request if from HR, we definitely know somebody's role is being changed. But in a large organization where you have 2,000 or 10,000 of users, you cannot keep a track of the changes in user profile. So there are different ways of managing it. And the one way is creating a rule or a business logic. And those business logic in Okta can be an attribute based. So let's say that if you have some attribute with a specific value, you get added to this group. So yesterday, the criteria to get users added to this group is that there should be an IT administrator. Now, how do I know whether this user, contractor one or Maxwell is an IT administrator? So the one of the attribute which is available in Okta is called as title. So if I go to the profile of any user, there is an attribute called title, right? I can specify a job title for this user, and I can say that this user is an IT administrator or something. Then you will see the same might go in department. So department is again another attribute which we can which we can use for this kind of business logic. Now we can build logic based on different other requirements. So if we don't think about title or department, let's say I want all users to be in a specific group who belongs to a single manager or a set of managers. I want all users to be part of a group based on the country code. So let's say my business is in three different countries, India, US, and Australia. So I can create three different groups and I can then create a business logic that if the country code for this user is US, they should be in the US group. If the country code is India, then they should be in the India group and so on, right? So there can be a different ways of building these logics, and it is always business dependent. So it depends upon the requirement. But yeah, these are certain examples which you can use to create logic or a rule. So we are going to see how we can create those rules today. So if I go to rules, sorry, groups, I have a tab called rules. You can click on rules and you can click on add rule. And we can specify a name to this rule so that we identify what this rule is doing. So let's say IT admins as a rule. So I know that it is directly changing the user or adding the user to IT admins. Or if I want to illustrate more, I can say that um, rule, sorry, rule to manage IT admins, right? So it clearly specifies that this is a rule which manages this specific group. Now, coming to the rule itself, this rule has a condition, and if the condition matches, then the user get assigned to a specific group. And the group which we are targeting is IT admins, right? So anybody who matches this condition, which we are going to define here, will get added to the IT admins. And what is a condition which we are going to define? We are going to say that if one of the user attribute, if you do the drop down, there are only two options. We can either target a user attribute or a group membership, that if user belongs to a certain group. So let's start with user attribute, wherein we are saying if one of the user attribute matches a certain kind of value, then this user can get added to the IT admin. And for our business requirement, let's say anybody who has a job title of IT admins or IT admin should be in this group. So I can say title as that is the name of the attribute, and I can say equals. If you do not want to like compare, if you just want to see if it is a part of their job title or if it starts with a certain value, then we have other values in the drop down. So we have contains, which matches if the part of the value is matching with the condition. Starts with is if the condition is matching with the title, but it only starts with that and it gets extended. So it does not 100% matches the exact value, but it starts with the same value which we're specifying in the condition. So let's say if I give here as IT, and if I say starts with, then IT admins, IT manager, IT support, IT anything will get added to this group because the job title should only start with IT and then can end with anything. If I say equals, then only the job title which has IT, these only two words get added to the group. If you have IT admin or IT manager, you don't get added to the group because that does not equals your job title. So I can say IT admins or IT admin. Then anybody who has an IT admin as a job title will automatically get added to this group. Now this last box which you're seeing, accept the following users. So let's say that there are certain users who matches your condition, but you still don't want them to be added to the group. So you are just exempting those users from this rule. Then you can just specify their user name here. And even though those user might have IT admin as their title, they will not be added to this group. And you can click on save. So that will save this rule, but by default it is not active. So you need to click on actions beside the rule and activate it. Now, once the rule is active, it will try to crawl through all the users in your directory and see which user has a job title as IT admin. And if there are any user which matches, it will just add the user to that group. So let me do one thing. Let me go to a user, let's say Maxwell, and click on profile and update his title attribute to match our condition. Was A in uppercase or lowercase?
I believe it was uppercase.
All right, so this user should match the rule and should get added to the group. So if I go to IT admins, and if I look for Maxwell, so if you see for these other users, they were added manually yesterday, right? They are not added through the group. But if you see for Maxwell, it says user is being managed by a rule, and the name of the rule is the one which we just provided. So it means this user has a matching job title based on this rule, but these users do not, and they were added manually. So if I just remove them, Okta will not add them automatically. Now that let's say I want Sam Williams to be added to this group again, based on an automation, not manually, then what I need to do is I need to go to people and I need to find Sam Williams and I need to update the job title. The title and job title are the same attribute, so please do not confuse yourself. I am in the habit of saying it as a job title, but here for Okta, it is just title, okay? All right, so we should expect 2 members in that group, right? Yes, no, maybe.
We should only expect one, correct?
Why?
Because everyone else was added manually?
Yeah, I just removed everyone who were added manually, and I went to Sam Williams' profile and updated his title attribute to contain IT admin.
You would see two. You would see Maxwell and Sam Williams, and both of them are IT admins, right?
Yeah, so that should be our expectation. Let's do one thing. Let's go to Maureen account and let's also try to add a title attribute. So one trivia question here. Will I be able to update this user?
What do you mean update the user title?
Yeah.
Right there, edit attributes, right?
Mhm. Okay. So I edit the attribute. I go to the title attribute and I put in the title I want. And if I click on save, so according to you, it should get updated, right?
Um, is Maureen deactivated? Would it then only update if she's active?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right.
No,
So
it should still be able to update the.
No, it won't add the user to the group if the account is deactivated. It won't.
not just that, you are right. It will not add the user account even if it matches the rule if the user is deactivated. But if the user is deactivated, it will also not let you edit the user. So now you'll see this error, resource not found, and this is a user ID through which it was trying to look for the user account. So I cannot add a title attribute to a deactivated user. And if I go to groups, the count should be 2 for IT admins because Sam Williams should be part of that group now. Any confusion from anyone on this?
I had a question in regards to you had 5 users, the 3 you added manually or the 4 you added manually, and then the one you originally did. Um, Did those other 3 users, their titles were IT admins too? Wouldn't it?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I tried it with the web developer scenario that you gave, and I added the users manually, but then I went back and created the rule and activated the rule. And when I went into the user profile, it didn't show managed manually. It
Right.
showed managed by rule. So
So if they were added previously and they still match the rule, then it will change them to management by a rule. But if you now remove any of these user and just add them manually, so this user is removed, right? And if I just refresh this page, I only have one user, although this other user is matching the rule. And if I try to add Maxwell again, so this user was matching the rule and still matching the rule, but if I just add him again, it shows he is being managed manually. So removing a rule managed user from the group just breaks the rule only for that specific user, not for other users.
okay.
Okay. So it works in the other way. If you already had a user which was managed manually and then you created the rule and activated the rule, then they get converted to a rule-based managed user. But if you remove the user after the rule has already worked on them, then it just keeps them as manual user. All right, so we created a very simple rule that anybody who has a title attribute of IT admin to be part of this group. I don't like being simple, so let's modify the rule. In order to modify the rule, you need to first deactivate the rule so that it no longer triggers on anyone else. And then you can click on edit and you should be able to modify it. So one thing to observe here is now I can no longer change the group. Okay, so even if I modify this rule, I cannot change the group. So it will always be for this group itself, right? If I need to do that, then I need to delete this rule at 100% and then we'll be able to create a new rule. Let's say I want to keep the group as it is. I want to add more attribute check in order to get the user to add it to this group. That's where I need to understand how can I do that. So if you see, I don't have another drop down here to select a second attribute. If it also matches something, then go and add the user. I just have only one value. And if I just change to any other attribute, it just wipes out the title attribute check. But I want the title as well as, let's say, department, both attributes to be checked. And only if both attribute matches my condition, they should be added to the group. Then I cannot use the basic condition anymore. Then for me, what I need to do is I need to go to something called Okta Expression Language. So Okta Expression Language is a defined language, like a defined syntax in Okta through which you can specify certain rules and that rule will get evaluated and add the user. So if you have done any programming concepts, it's fine. You should be able to understand it very easily. If not, then also it's okay. It's a very simple thing. It's just a syntax. You need to understand how you can reference the different attributes, and it should be easy for you as well. So for this example, we need to use an Okta expression language. So I will select this, and you see this value from the drop down changes into a code editor or a field where we can type our expression. So if you see this basic condition, right? Here we have a drop down to select that we want to target a user attribute, and then we are specifying the attribute name, and then we are specifying a comparison value that whether it equals starts with, and then the value we are comparing with. So if we just change that to Okta expression language, it is the same thing. We are specifying an attribute from the user. We are specifying the attribute name. We are specifying a comparison tool, whether it equals, starts with, and so on, and the actual value we want to compare against. But display wise, it's different, right? It just looks different to you. So it says user dot middle name. So user is the profile, right? Yesterday, just to answer somebody's question, I showed that if you go to directory profile editor, you have a profile type called user, which is a default profile in Okta. So any user which you create in Okta is of type user. So if you go to directory people and pick any of your user, let's say Sam, you see the type of this user is user. So that profile is coming from the default profile editor, which we will look later on. But just to know, any user which you create is by default of a type called user in Okta. So any of the values or the attributes which a user profile has to be referenced by using a syntax called user dot and the name of the attribute. So in this example, it was user dot middle name. Let's say you want to target the title attribute. So it will be user dot title. If you want to target the primary email, it will be user dot email. This value, the second value, if you see all the attributes, they have two different names, username and login. This is a single attribute. These are not two different attributes. Okay. First name and this first name, these are the same attribute. Last name, primary email, email, title, display name. So these are all single attributes. These are not two different attributes. This name which you see is called as display name. Sorry, that's the wrong example. This uh, value which you see is called as display name of the attribute, which is visible to you as a user. This is called as variable name of the attribute or the API name of the attribute. That is what we use in our API calls or in our expressions or any scripts which we write, right? So always use the second name, which you see beneath the actual attribute name. That is something which we will be using in our expressions. So for title, it is title. For primary email, it is email. And for username, it is login. And also yesterday when we did the CSV import, we saw that the second name is there in the as a column header because that's how it can be unique. All right. So if we go back to our group rules, anytime you think I'm going very fast and you're not able to understand, let me know. And if I click on actions, edit, and now if I switch to Okta expression language, it says user dot title equals to IT admin. If I want to, let's say, target email attribute, then I would say user dot email. If I want to target first name, then I can say user dot first name. Likewise, any attribute which you want to target for comparison, you will say user dot and the name of the attribute. Okay, so let's keep title. So I can say user dot title equals to. Single equals to is like an assignment and double equals to is comparison. So we are comparing the user's title value with the value I have given on the right hand side, which is IT admin. So if the value on the title attribute of the user equals IT admin, then this entire expression from here to here becomes true. And only a user gets assigned to this group IT admin when this expression evaluates to true. Any question?
Do Okta expression language these codes they don't have any spaces, only spaces are possible in like quotations or parentheses?
You can have spaces. So like when you are referencing something, you will not have a space, but you can have a space here, right? Before equals to. So you can create a space here. This is allowed. But when you're referencing something like user dot title, then you cannot have a space there.
I see. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
But usually as a programmer, we try to save spaces in our script. So we all are in habit of like writing things like this. It seems a little weird, but that's how we are,
Okay.
right? Okay. Now the goal of bringing the Okta expression language in context was that I want more checks to be included before a user gets added, not just the title, but I also want department to be included in the check. And only a user gets added to the IT admin group if they have both IT admin as a title and let's say IT as a department. If they do not satisfy both the condition, they will never get added to the group. If they satisfy only one condition, they're still not getting added to the group. They have to satisfy both the condition in order to be in the group. Okay. So what I would do is, let's say I will write user dot department equals to IT. Okay. So it is incorrect for now, but let's just focus on this second part. Any question in understanding this second part, if you just ignore the first, user or department equals to ID, it means that it will go through each and every user and it will try to read the department attribute and their value, and it will compare it with the value on the right, which is IT. If they match the IT, then this highlighted expression becomes true. Now my goal is both of these expression has to be true. So for this, what I would do is I need to join both of these expression using a special keyword called and. Okay. So if you have done Boolean algebra or like logic gates in your classes, and only evaluates to true if both the expression on either side evaluates to true. So if a user has a title of IT admin as well as a department of IT, then this entire expression becomes true. Okay. So for and, it is like true and true, then only it becomes true. So let's say if this is false, then this entire statement becomes false. But there is another keyword which is called as or. In this scenario, only one has to be true to have the entire expression evaluated true. So in this case, this entire expression is true because one of them are true. And there is one more which is called as not, but it is not used in this way. That is just to use in front of the attribute name. So this means not true is equivalent to false.
So,
So these are the three. Mhm.
sorry, I'm sorry I cut you off. I so I see it's the way this statement, it's like a if then statement. So can you, and I see you using the and or operators. So can you use like the else operator in this as,
Um,
or do you can we make this like
I
if else statement?
yes, yes, we can.
Okay.
We can. But we cannot add an else here. Okay. Like how you see if, we cannot add an else here. What we can do is we can use some magic here in the field. Okay. It is called as a tertiary operator. We will go into that in a detail, but let's say you have a condition here, right? And then we have a question mark, which is equivalent to if, and then we have a value which is for true. Okay. So here you put any value or any condition to be true, and then you put this colon, which is equivalent to else, and then you use another condition or a value or anything else. So this is like if this condition is satisfied, this value will be used, or else this value will be used. This is called as a tertiary operator. We can go into detail when we are actually using it, but just for your question, this is how we can use if as. Okay, so apart from that if else thing, does anyone have question for this expression which we have on the screen here?
Nope, pretty straightforward.
Great, and I would also remove Maxwell from the exception so that he gets added as a rule managed user, and I just click on save and activate this rule. Right. Now I have to go to users. Okay, let's first go to groups and see what happens to our existing users. So I go to IT admins. I can see that the other user which was added by the rule is no longer here. And the reason being, now we have changed the rule, and the rule needs the user to be both belongs to a title of IT admin and a department of IT, which it does not, and it got removed. This user was manually assigned or broken from the rule earlier, so it's not an issue for this user. Okay. Let's go to the other user we had. Was it Sam Williams? I believe so. Yeah. Sam Williams, he had an title of IT admin earlier, but he did not had a department of IT, and that is why the user got removed from the group, because this user was managed by a rule and the rule no longer matches the condition for this specific user. So what I need to do is I need to click on edit and update his department attribute to match the condition. So if I update his department attribute to match the condition and click on save, you will see that this user gets added to the group as the group role runs. And if I go to the groups tab and just refresh this page, you see he got added to the IT admins group and he's being managed by this rule again. Is this clear?
Yes. I had a question. It seems as though manually adding or removing someone from a group will always supersede a rule. How would you, if you wanted that person to be managed by a rule again, how would you re-add him to a rule?
Yeah, so what you will need to do is you will need to go to the group, remove the user, save. I think it is already saved. Go to the rule and deactivate the rule. Edit the rule. Check if user is there in the exception or not. Let's just refresh and make sure. User is not there in the exception. If it is there, you just remove it. And now if you just activate the rule, user should be able to get in the group.
Okay, so it'll reapply until you manually override it again.
Yeah, but now you do not see that user because I don't think the IT department was IT for that specific user. So if I go to people, it was Maxwell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for Maxwell, if I go to profile, I see the job title as IT admin, but I do not see department as IT. So I can just edit the user. I can specify the department attribute to be IT and save this user, hoping that he will get added through rule, and refresh this page. Go to the groups tab, and it does.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. No, it's a very good question. Okay, if you guys do not have a question, as I said on the very first class, I have a question for you. Now, let's say I want to change this rule again, and I want to include another check. And that this time the check will be for a country. Only the users in the country United States should be added to this group. So can you guide me? How can I do that?
Did you say you want to edit a rule or create a new one?
Anything is fine. We can either edit the same rule or we can create a new one. I want the condition to be, they should be IT admin, their department should be IT, and their country should be United States.
Okay, so
So I guess first things first, we would go to the groups section
Okay.
and then click on rules. And then can we, yeah, if we edit, go to actions and the drop down button next to actions and edit. Oh, we can only view or deactivate now. I'll click on view. Sorry, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, Esper. I was saying you have to deactivate it so you can edit the rule.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with a team effort. So yeah, let's deactivate. And then let's edit.
Okay.
And then now using the Okta expression language, we would say user dot country equals United States. If I remember that's the correct way to put it.
You want it to be like this. And what should I join it with?
And
Yeah. Is this correct?
Let's test it.
Is this expression correct? One hint, definitely this value is not correct. And just because like, since you do not know, I'll just help you here. For Okta, there are few attributes which has a very restricted type of value which you can put in. Like country code, it has to be an ISO country code of 2 characters only. So for US, it is US. For India, it is IN. For Australia, it is AU. For England, it is GB, and so on. Apart from this, do you see any error on this expression?
Maybe the
And
operator.
for sure, the value is right.
oh right, that's a good point, Irfan. Maybe it shouldn't be user because it's not. Oh, I guess no, it would be a user attribute, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the operator and because we already can we use and multiple times? Or should we
Yes,
use
you can.
or? Oh, we can? Okay. Um,
Don't we have
So,
to
okay.
update users first too to add in the country?
I didn't get you. Can you repeat once again?
I said, don't we have to update the users as well to add in the country first before putting in the code?
We can do it later also. That's not an
Oh.
issue.
Okay. But other than that, I think it seems fine.
Okay. So let's go to a user. And let's go to profile of the user where you can see all the attributes. And sorry, let's go to the country attribute of the user. I do not see any attribute called country here. the only attribute which I see is called as country code.
Yeah, I caught that as you were scrolling. Country code.
Yes. So this has to be the country code. And I can click on save. And I will not forget to activate this group rule. And now if I go to group, you see ID admins is 0 because none of the user which were matching before are matching now, because now we have a new condition, and the new condition includes an extra check of country code. So I need to go to those users who were matching before, Sam and Maxwell, and need to update their country code to US. So here, if I go to country code, it's a country code, yeah. And just to show you that it only accepts 2-digit ISO characters. If I, let's say, USA or United States, this will throw an error. If I try to save this, it will throw an error. Did it take it? No, okay, it changed it itself to United States. So it has become responsive. So I changed it automatically to US. So this is the value it only accepts. If I, let's say, do USA, let's try if it throws any error or not. It is just changing it to US automatically, which is good. All right, so it only accepts 2-digit character, and similar to this country code, we have something called as locale. It also accepts an ISO language format, which is like EN underscore and the language code like EN underscore US for English US, ES underscore uh, GB for English United Kingdom, and so on. Time zone is again a restricted attribute wherein it has to be a format of a time zone like Americas hyphen Latin Pacific or something. All other attributes are fine. All right, so this user, should it be in the group now? Is matching the title, is matching the department, and is matching the country code. Should he be in the group or not?
Yes, he should be.
Try that. Yes. Similarly, we can go to Maxwell's profile and we can just update the country code to be United States. And now he should also be in this group. So I can see there are 2 users in this group. Is this clear?
Yes.
If I want to include another check then, and this time my condition is either the user has to be IT admin and department has to be IT and they should be from US. If not these 3 checks, then let's say I can accept the user to be in this group if they have a title of web developer.
So you
So
can
either these 3 set or just one attribute called web title of web developer.
so you can edit the rule and add a or condition, right?
So you mean I can go to the rules, I can deactivate this rule and I can edit the rule
and then
I can add an or condition,
or
and you mean to say user dot title equals to web developer. Is this what you wanted?
yeah.
I agree as well.
Okay. Okay, so let's see this expression in different ways. Let's say if this expression is true and this expression is true and this expression is true and this expression is true. This whole thing is true, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Hmm.
The or is only between user country code US and user title web developer. It's not between the first two stipulations that we had. So we would have to group the whole thing before or and then what's after or, correct?
After or is fine. We don't need to group because it's just a single condition. But before it, definitely we have to. So we have to group it together using parenthesis. Now this becomes one condition
Right.
and this becomes the second condition. And within this, there are sub conditions. Is this clear?
Yes. And I didn't think I'd be using math here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is called in US, but in India, this kind of formula is called as BODMAS. So it's like bracket of division, multiplication, then addition and subtraction. This is a series we follow in mathematics, right?
Yeah, we call them order of operations or PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents. Yeah.
All right. Now that if I activate this rule and if I go to a user which does not satisfy any Bob Johnson, okay, which does not satisfy any of the previous three rules, like he did not have a title of IT admin or a department or a country code of US or a department of IT. He just has a title of web developer. In this scenario, we'll see if it gets added to the group. Right, and if I refresh this page, and if I look at his group membership, user is part of the group. Is this cool? So now that we know how to create a group rule, at least a simple group rule, can you tell me the use case which you can derive from this demo? How is it helpful in your day-to-day operation of Okta group membership?
You don't have to manually edit each profile. You can just set rules in place. Kind of like you set a rule in your inbox so you can filter, your emails to different folders. That way you don't have to manually go through each one and do it. It's kind of a way of automating your tasks.
Correct. So yeah, it gives us a way of automating our repetitive task of adding and removing the users. It will also like keep the users in check. So I do not need to like, as a human, I may have a human error and I may skip one or two user, but the rule will not. So this is the use case where we use group rules. We can definitely create a very complex group rule depending upon the requirement. The one which we just created are very common group rules. They are very simple group rules, and we can definitely expand it to something else. So just to show you and not scare you, did I had a group rule here? Okay, so this is one of the group rule. Can you read this rule and explain what it is trying to do? If it is not good to read from here, then I can just open this box and highlight this here. Okay, let me deactivate and click on edit. Okay, I think this should be good. Can you explain any one of you what this group is trying to do? Group rule is trying to do.
It seems like the first part of the code before the word or you're trying to connect it to the second one and the third one because in the beginning you have two brackets. So it looks like it's trying to connect to the one after it as well. And then to see which one of them would be true on each side of or.
Okay. But what value is it checking against? So looking at this, what are the different sets of condition you can evaluate? Okay, this if this and this matches for a user may get added to this group.
Location, title, and manager. Those are the three things you're trying to filter.
Okay.
If we were to try and like translate this, would we say that we would add a user to this group only if they are a web developer from US, Canada, or New Zealand, or they're specifically they have the attribute of being a manager and the Sam or Max, then they would be added.
Right. So they can be from any location from this three, which is US, Canada, or New Zealand. And they must have a title of web developer, or if none of this satisfies, if they are just reporting to the manager Sam or Max, they still get added to this group. Is this clear?
What role does the two brackets before user country mean?
Okay, so the two bracket means, let's say if we just ignore it for a while, the first bracket, this second bracket till here is one condition, right? It's just grouped together. Then this, or yeah, then this bracket which ends here and this bracket which starts here, this forms one condition for OR. Okay, so what we are doing is we are just saying that this condition and this condition are grouped together. So it is equivalent to, like, let's say if I remove this and if I delete this bracket and delete this bracket, it is just equivalent. But if I need to include any other checks, then I will need to do this to merge or to bring them as one condition for the OR, which we had earlier. Then this becomes one condition for the OR, and this entire thing becomes the first condition for OR.
I understand. Thank you.
I would not confuse you guys further. So just keep it to the simple like this, and we'll give you some assignments. If you have any question, you can ask me now. I can explain these things again. Otherwise, I'll just give you the assignment and hope you would be able to complete it.
So this equal sign only is for equals, right? Not like starts with or contains.
Correct.
Okay.
For starts with or contains, we have SW, which is what starts with, and CO for contains. So instead of using equals equals, we can use SW and CO.
Would it have to
And
be
then we have to give a, then we have to give a space. So let's say you don't want to equate, you just want to check if this contains, then it will become CO like this. If you want to know it starts with, then it will become SW. If you want to check equals, then you can either say EQ or equal equal. If you want to learn more about Okta Expression Language, we will go through this language, but if you want to still learn, you can just click on this reference language and it will take you to developer.okta.com where you can see this documentation on expression language, how you can use it, what are the different examples um, of making it complex, different functions it has, string functions, and so on. So if you have done JavaScript or any other programming, it would come very naturally. Otherwise, just wait for my sessions. I would try to point out the specifics which we use very often, and that would become very simple for you to understand. So I think we are ready for our assignment. So the assignment is you have to create a group called web developers and assign all the users that have the job title of HTML developer to the group called web developer. And along with that, I think you should also be able to use this last assignment, which is to create a group rule where every user, just ignore employee and just replace that with user, where every user, or just leave it for now. Yeah, let's just keep it simple. This is your group rule. Any question? Mohammed and Asad, if you would like to say anything here, or are we good?
No, I think I'm good. As for the title of this video, did you want to make it group rules?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll again connect tomorrow and go through the remaining topics.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.